I moved into this quiet suburban neighborhood about 3 months ago, after my separation. I hoped the peace and solitude would help my creativity as a freelance graphic designer. At first, everything seemed fine. I liked my new home. 3 nights after moving in, my porch light started flickering. I stepped outside to check it. As I looked around, I thought I saw a shadow dart into the bushes across the street. I shook it off as my imagination. But something felt off, and an uneasy feeling settled in my stomach. In the following weeks, I noticed things got weird. My cat, Jasper, would sit at the window, staring intently at something outside. He would hiss occasionally, and it sent chills down my spine. I told myself it was probably just a squirrel or passing car, but I was getting anxious. One day, I came home from grocery shopping and found strange footprints near my front door. They looked smaller than mine, but they didn't belong to any kids in the area. My heart raced as I stood there staring at them. I felt cold, even though the sun was shining. Then one evening, I saw him again. A figure stood closer to my porch, just standing there. My heart raced. I didn't want to look, but I couldn't help it. I squinted, trying to see better. He just stared at me. I called out, "Hey, do you need help?" Silence answered me back. I thought maybe I was just being paranoid. It felt silly to think someone was watching me. I asked a few neighbors if they'd seen anyone strange, but they just shrugged. I kept my fears to myself, not wanting to sound crazy. The next day, Jasper was hissing again at the window. I felt a sense of dread. I walked outside to check the bushes where I'd seen the shadow. As I got closer, I noticed fresh footprints leading up to my door. But then they just stopped. No tracks were going away. I stood frozen, my mind racing. What did that mean? Later that night, as I got ready for bed, I heard a soft knock at my window. I froze. I wanted to call out but felt something hold me back. My heart was pounding, and I felt cold all over. I didn't look outside. Then I heard a voice ask, "Why do you look so scared?" I turned around, and nobody was there. The room felt heavy, and my breath caught in my throat. I didn't feel safe. Some nights, I'd hear faint noises outside or see shadows that I couldn't explain. I tried to dismiss it, but it kept happening. Each night I felt like someone was watching. My peaceful neighborhood turned into a source of anxiety. I never saw the figure again after that night at my window. But something inside me felt like he was still out there, hidden in the shadows, watching. I still can't explain what happened, and that's what scares me the most. The following week, I decided to take a break from work and focus on my mental health. The creeping anxiety had taken a toll on my creativity. I thought some fresh air and a walk around the neighborhood might help clear my head. As I strolled down the block, I noticed a few kids playing in someone's yard. I waved at them, but they stared back with wide eyes and silence hung in the air. I felt a little awkward, but maybe they were just shy. As I walked past, I couldn't shake the feeling they were staring at me. I shrugged it off and continued to the local park. The park was a few blocks away, nestled between 2 rows of houses. I used to love going there, but now it felt strangely eerie. I spotted a bench and sat down, taking a deep breath. I watched people jog by, families enjoying picnics, and dogs chasing after frisbees. It was supposed to be calming, but all I could think about was the shadow at my window. Suddenly, I heard a rustle behind me. I turned, and a man stood about 10 feet away, just watching me. He had shaggy hair and worn clothes, and an unsettling grin plastered on his face. I felt that familiar chill travel down my spine. I hesitated, unsure if I should get up and leave or confront him. "Nice day, huh?" he said, his tone oddly cheery. I managed a weak smile and nodded. He took a step closer, confidence in his gait. "You like it here?" I nodded again, my heart racing. I attempted to gather my composure. Yeah, it's nice. I see you around often, he replied, still grinning. I usually pass by your house. I froze. My throat tightened. What did he mean by that? You've got a cute cat, he added, his smile widening. I swallowed hard. Thanks, I replied, taking a cautious step back. I gripped the bench tightly, my palms sweating. Where are you going? He interrupted, tilting his head like a curious dog. His expression felt strange, almost predatory. I got up abruptly, intention clear. I need to go, I said, my voice shaky. I walked away quickly, glancing back once to see if he was following me. He wasn't. He simply stood there, watching me, his hands shoved into his pockets. When I reached home, my heart still raced as I locked the door behind me. I felt strangely vulnerable, even within my own house. Silence wrapped around me, but it felt thicker than usual. I decided to pull the curtains closed, unable to shake off the man's intense gaze. After cooking dinner, I sat on my couch with Jasper, trying to distract myself with a movie. But all I could think about was that man. What was he doing in the neighborhood? Why was he watching me? Then, as I settled in, a sharp knock at the door made me jump. I glanced at Jasper, who was now wide-eyed and still. I debated whether to open it or call the police. Taking a breath, I stood, but dread gnawed at my gut. I approached the door slowly. Peeking through the peephole, I saw nothing, but my heart sank. That's when I heard a voice say from the other side, "Why do you look so scared?" It was the same voice from my window. Panic surged as I backed away from the door. I wasn't alone anymore, and now I had to face the consequences of my fear. I didn't know what to do. The voice felt like ice fusing my veins. I could feel my heart thudding loudly in my chest. Who was this man? Why was he tormenting me? I couldn't let him know I was scared. I stood in the dim light of my living room, feeling trapped. "Let me in," he said, the cheeriness now replaced with a low, almost growling tone. "I just want to talk." I wanted to scream, to race to the phone and call for help, but my feet were glued to the floor. I thought about Jasper. The cat was my priority. I couldn't let him in. I took a shaky breath, trying to regain some sense of control. "Go away!" I shouted, surprising even myself with the anger in my voice. The silence outside stretched, but I didn't hear him leave. "I just want to be your friend," he said. "I know you've been feeling down. I see you." My stomach turned. He didn't just seem unnerving, he sounded like he might be watching me all the time. The hairs on my arms stood on end as I backed away toward the phone. "Please, leave," I called. "I'll call the cops." Another silence passed. Then, he chuckled softly. "You don't need them. I'm not a bad guy. I'm just curious." I glanced around the room, searching for something to defend myself. All I had were a few kitchen utensils and Jasper's cat toys. My heart dropped. Nothing would be enough if he decided to force his way in. I grabbed my phone, my palms slick against the case. Without another word, I backed away from the door, eyes glued to the peephole. I waited for him to move, but the only sound now was my ragged breathing. What if he could hear my pulse? I could feel the weight of dread settle deep in my chest. Finally, I whispered, "I'm calling the police." Just as I reached for my phone, a loud bang resonated at the door. My heart leaped again. He was trying to get in. The sound repeated, fist striking wood. I stumbled back, adrenaline surging. "Don't be like that," he yelled, voice rising. "I just want to see you." That was it. The last thread of my courage snapped. I grabbed my phone, dialed 911, and pressed it to my ear. Help. There's a man outside my house. He won't leave. I could barely hear the operator through my panicking heartbeat. I kept my eyes on the door, expecting the man to break through at any moment. I need you to stay calm. Help is on the way, the operator said. In the midst of her calm words, I noticed something out of the corner of my eye. A figure moved beyond the window. I held my breath. Had he gotten around? My chest tightened. I glanced back at the door. It was still closed for now. I see him, I whispered to the operator, breath shaky. He's watching through the window. That's when I saw it, a flash of light reflecting off something metal in his hand. And everything went dark. I jolted awake, heart racing. My living room was silent, but the darkness felt heavy, like it had weight. It took a moment to process where I was. The phone slipped from my fingers, crashing to the floor. I reached for it, my hand shaking. Had I fallen asleep? Was the door still shut? I was hit by a wave of nausea. I picked up the phone cautiously, staring at the screen. No missed calls, no notifications. I glanced around, fighting back panic, wondering if he was still out there. Then the lights flickered back on. The man was gone, but something was off. My front door was ajar. I hadn't left it open. Fear gripped me again, sending chills down my spine. I sprang to my feet, fighting the urge to flee and grabbing my phone like a lifeline. Are you still there? I breathed into the receiver. I need help. He's here. I think he got in. Stay calm, ma'am. Police are on their way, the operator reassured me, but it felt hollow. I could feel the swell of dread rising inside of me. I slipped into the hallway, staying low and quiet, my breath shallow. Jasper was nowhere to be seen, and the absence of his soft purring heightened my anxiety. Jasper. I called softly, peeking into the small kitchen. Nothing but shadows greeted me. The door creaked softly as I slowly approached it. I could hear the faintest sounds outside, rustling leaves and the distant hum of streetlights. Then I caught a glimpse of movement on my porch. What do I do? I whispered, half expecting a reply from the operator. Before I could think, I crept back toward the living room and grabbed a butcher knife from the drying rack. It felt fragile in my grip against the terror that consumed me. I returned to the front door, carefully pressing my back against the wall next to it. Please, don't be here, I pleaded silently, praying he'd just left. Then, with a sudden crash, the door slammed wide open. A figure stood silhouetted in the frame, momentarily blocking out the light behind him. I gasped, clutching the knife tighter. Hello? He called, voice smooth and taunting. I didn't mean to scare you, but I brought something. He stepped forward, the light hitting his face. I recoiled. It was him, the man who had been outside. My body screamed at me to run, but I was frozen in place. In his hand was a small, intricately carved box. I wanted to give you a present, he said, grinning. What was wrong with him? Why was he doing this? He took a step closer, and I felt my heart pound in my ears. As he advanced, the previous thrill of the chase faded, replaced by a deep instinct telling me to fight or flee. Don't come any closer. I yelled, shaking the knife in front of me, more for show than with intent. He tilted his head, amusement dancing in his eyes. You don't trust me yet? And just like that, the sound of sirens pierced the night. Relief washed over me, but it was quickly overshadowed by the realization that he wouldn't leave until he got what he wanted. Before I could consider my next move, the figure lunged forward. Who are you? I shouted, but he only smiled wider, revealing more teeth than I thought humanly possible. You'll find out soon enough. As he lunged, I knew I had only moments to act. I barely had time to react. My instincts kicked in, and I thrust the knife toward him, aiming for his chest. But he was quicker. In a swift motion, he sidestepped and grabbed my wrist with a grip like iron. "Not so fast," he hissed, his breath hot against my face. Panic surged through me as I twisted my hand, trying to break free. Suddenly, I heard a loud knock at the door. "Police! Open up!" My heart raced with conflicting emotions. Relief flooded me momentarily, but fear still held me in a chokehold. The man's eyes flickered with annoyance as he adjusted his grip on my wrist. "Looks like your friends are here," he said, irritation creeping into his voice. I should have hurried. I couldn't believe this was happening. The police were right outside, but I was stuck like bait, held captive by his sinister presence. "Let go of me!" I screamed, drawing from whatever strength I had left. In that instant, I managed to loop my free arm around the knife and brought it down with all my might against his hand. He howled in pain, releasing me just long enough for me to stumble back. I raced to the door, frantically unlocking it. The handle felt foreign in my trembling hands. "Ma'am!" The officer burst in as I swung the door open, his firearm raised. "Where is he?" I pointed toward the living room, but the man was already gone. The air felt thick with confusion and fear. "Where did he go?" I gasped, looking all around the room. The box lay on the floor, a forgotten trophy. "Ma'am, stay calm. We need to establish what happened," the officer said, still alert. "Did he have a weapon?" "No, but did you see his face?" "Yes. He was right here, I swear. He had this box," I said, motioning toward the ornate weapon on the floor. The officer bent down to examine it, his expression unreadable. "Stay back," he cautioned. I stepped aside, suddenly feeling fragile and exposed. "Have you ever seen him before?" "No. I don't know him. I thought I was safe here." I was practically pleading, desperation leaking from my voice. Just then, another officer joined us. "We got reports of a suspicious individual in the area. He may be connected to a series of break-ins." My breath hitched in my throat. "He was watching me?" "Why?" "There's a chance this was targeted," the officer explained. "He might know you." I trembled at the thought. How could he know anything about me? "Do you recognize this?" The officer held up the box, revealing intricate patterns carved into the wood. "It's not something we usually see." At that moment, I felt a twist in my gut. The box was familiar, I just couldn't place it. Whispered questions echoed in my mind. Why had he brought it? What did it mean? Before I could respond, a loud bang resonated from the back of the house. "Clear!" one of the officers shouted. They shared a look of concern, and I felt dread creep back into my veins. "We need to check the rest of the house." "Stay here," said the first officer, urgency lacing his voice. As they moved deeper into my home, the weight of the box seemed to hang around my neck like a noose. That's when I knew I wasn't just dealing with a random stranger. I was caught in something much darker. My heart raced again, and I heard footsteps behind me. Someone was still in the house. I turned slowly, my heart hammering in my chest. The footsteps grew louder, then stopped. I dared to glance over my shoulder, half expecting to see the man from before. But the hallway remained empty, shadows stretching unnaturally along the walls. I took a deep breath, calming my racing thoughts just enough to think. The officers were too wrapped up in searching the house, and I was alone. This wasn't the time to wait around for help. The man could still be nearby. I cautiously crept toward the living room, keeping my back against the wall. Underneath my fear, curiosity peaked. Why had he come here? What did he want with me? I noticed my phone on the couch, and I rushed over to grab it. My fingers fumbled as I unlocked it, praying the police would come back soon. But I couldn't just sit there. I had to figure out what was happening. As I scrolled through my contacts, trying to think of someone who might know what to do, I caught a glimpse of the box lying on the floor. The carvings were different now. They seemed to shift and shimmer in the low light, revealing shapes that looked almost familiar. I stepped closer and knelt down, scrutinizing the details. As I traced my fingers over the grooves, a shiver ran up my spine. I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd seen this box before. It held some kind of significance. But where? Suddenly, I heard a creak behind me. I whipped around, ready to defend myself. The officers were still searching, and I had no time to call out to them. Then, to my horror, I spotted a silhouette emerging from the hallway. It wasn't the man, but a figure that looked alarmingly similar. My breath caught in my throat. The person in the doorway scanned the room, and I felt a jolt of adrenaline. "Where is he?" The figure spoke, their voice low and steady. "Who are you?" I demanded, taking a cautious step back. "I'm here to help." "I know him." The figure looked familiar. My heart raced with recognition. It was someone from my past, someone who had just slipped my mind. "What do you mean you know him?" I asked, feeling a surge of both hope and apprehension. "I can explain everything," they said, moving closer. "But we need to leave. Now." Before I could process their words, another officer burst into the room, gun drawn. "Hey!" Hands where I can see them. Panic ignited in my chest. "No, wait. They get down." The officer shouted, and I dropped to the floor, adrenaline flooding my senses. The figure hesitated, caught between us. "Listen to me," they pleaded. Then everything went dark. A blinding flash of light sparked from the box, and the room pulsed with energy. The last thing I heard was the officer shouting before the world faded away. I wasn't alone anymore, but I had no idea where this was going. I opened my eyes to a strange place, a dimly lit room with strange symbols adorning the walls. I felt disoriented, like I had fallen into a dream I couldn't wake from. The air was thick and heavy, and I struggled to sit up. "Where am I?" I croaked, rubbing my temples. My heart raced as I took in my surroundings, the eerie flicker of candlelight playing tricks on my mind. "You're safe," a voice interrupted my thoughts. I turned, recognizing the figure from the house. "You!" I gasped. "What did you do?" "I brought you here to keep you hidden," they replied, their eyes darting around as if checking for threats. "From who?" I asked, feeling more questions bubble up. "What do you mean hidden?" "The man who has been following you. He is dangerous. If we stay here, we have a chance to figure this out." "Figure what out?" I pressed, shaking my head in confusion. "I don't understand. I thought the police were supposed to help." "The police don't know everything," they said, stepping closer. I could see the worry etched on their face. "You need to trust me. You're in more danger than you realize." "Why should I trust you?" I crossed my arms, my fear battling with the instinct to flee. The only thing I knew about this person was that they had some connection to my past, but that wasn't enough. "Because I know things. I've been watching him. He is not just some random stalker. He is involved in something much bigger," they insisted. The room's energy shifted, tension crackling in the air. "What are you talking about?" I snapped, my frustration boiling over. "I can explain," the figure said, glancing around again as if expecting someone to burst in at any moment. "But we need to get out first." "Of where?" I asked, but my words caught. In the corner of the room, I noticed an open door leading to another darkened passage. "It's a safe route," they said, urging me toward it. I hesitated. What if it was a trap? But the thought of that man still sent shivers down my spine. I had seen something behind his eyes, something calculated and malicious. "Okay," I finally said, desperation creeping into my voice. "Let us go." We moved quickly, threading our way through the narrow passage. The air grew colder, and I shivered at the prospect of what lay ahead. My mind raced with what I had just learned. "That box," I said suddenly, remembering the engraved surface. What was it? Why was it glowing? The figure paused. "It's a gateway of sorts. It can connect different realms. But it isn't safe to use." "Not yet." "Different realms?" I repeated, disbelief creeping into my tone. "Yes, and that's why he's after you." "You have something he wants," they replied, their voice low and urgent. That's when I saw it, flashes of that man's face. It was as if they were burned into my memory, but so were the threats behind him. Suddenly, a loud noise echoed from behind us. I spun around, icy fear gripping me. "We need to move," I shouted, panic flooding my veins. The figure grabbed my wrist, pulling me forward just as a shadow tore past the doorway. We raced down the corridor, but my heart sank. There was no guarantee we would escape. We dashed through the dark passage, adrenaline surging with each hurried step. My lungs burned, and I struggled to keep up as my guide pulled me along. I could barely process everything that was happening, the symbols, the man chasing me, the thought of realms beyond my comprehension. "Keep your head down," the figure urged, their voice barely a whisper. My instincts kicked in, and I ducked instinctively as we rounded a corner. The air carried a cold draft, sending chills down my spine. "What now?" I gasped, trying to catch my breath. "We've got to find a way out of here. His presence lingers." "I can feel it," they replied, scanning the walls for something, anything. As we pressed on, the narrow corridor opened into a larger room. It looked like an abandoned storage area filled with dust and old crates. Shadows danced around the edges, and I couldn't shake the feeling that eyes were watching us. "Over there," my companion said, pointing towards a large, rusty door. "If we can get through that, we might find a way to escape." I nodded, but doubt crept in. "And what if he's already here? What if he finds us?" "We'll face that when it comes," they said firmly. Their resolve was both reassuring and terrifying. I hesitated a moment, glancing back at the corridor we had just come from. The shadow that had chased us now seemed distant, but I could still feel its threat hovering in the atmosphere. "Let us go," I finally said, the urgency of the situation outweighing my fear. We approached the door cautiously, but as we reached for the latch, an unearthly sound echoed from behind it, a low growl that sent ripples of fear down my spine. "What was that?" I whispered, my voice barely audible. "I don't know," the figure replied, looking equally concerned. "But we don't have time to wait." With resolve, we pushed the door open, wincing as it groaned loudly on its rusty hinges. The room beyond was dim but large, illuminated by an eerie blue glow emanating from the far wall. That glow reminded me of the box from earlier, sparking something deep within my memory. "What is that?" I asked, stepping inside despite my better judgment. "It could be another gateway," they replied cautiously. "But we have to be careful. The energies here are volatile." As we moved closer, I felt a strange pull, almost enchanting. But before I could even reach out, the growl we heard before echoed again, now louder and more pronounced. My heart pounded in my chest. Suddenly, a figure emerged in the shadows, a silhouette draped in darkness, with eyes glinting like daggers. My breath caught, and I felt frozen in place. "It's him!" I gasped, my instincts screaming to run. "No! Stay close to me!" my companion commanded, stepping in front of me, their body tense. Then everything shifted. The glowing wall pulsed as if reacting to our presence, and in that moment, I realized something terrifying. Wait, he's not just a stalker. He's after the gateway. Just as I pieced it together, the air thickened. My vision blurred, and a deafening roar filled the room. What are you? I began, but before I could finish, the earth beneath us trembled violently. I grabbed the side of the glowing wall. The energy surged through me, and the last thing I saw was my companion's terrified face, followed by darkness swallowing us whole. I woke up with a jolt, gasping for air. The cold ground beneath me felt real, yet there was an odd heaviness that pressed against my chest. I blinked rapidly, trying to gather my surroundings. The eerie blue glow was gone, replaced by dim sunlight filtering through a cracked window. Where are we? I mumbled, still disoriented. My companion was beside me, looking just as bewildered. I think we've crossed over. But this place, it feels different. Their voice was shaky, and I could hear the underlying fear. I pushed myself up cautiously. We were in a sparsely furnished room, the dusty walls painted a faded gray. For a moment, it felt like we had escaped, but the tension in the air told me otherwise. Suddenly, I noticed something on the floor. A small, intricate symbol shimmered, reminiscent of the ones I had seen before. What is this? I asked, pointing at it. That's a portal marker, my companion replied, their eyes widening. We might still be in danger. Just then, a sound echoed from a nearby hallway, heavy footsteps approaching. My heart raced, and I could feel the familiar knot of fear tightening again. We have to hide. I hissed, instinctively moving toward the nearest closet. No. They said urgently. We need to know who it is first. I hesitated, torn between the instinct to hide and the need to act. The footsteps grew louder, and I felt the urge to bolt. But my companion's determination anchored me. Then, I noticed a shadow flicker outside the door. My fingers itched to grip something, anything that could serve as a weapon. My mind raced, considering the figure we had seen before. The door creaked open, revealing a tall silhouette. The moment I saw the face, I froze. It was him, the same man from before, eyes full of malice. My companion gasped softly, and I quickly pulled them behind me. What do you want? I shouted, my voice firmer than I felt. He stepped into the room, the light casting eerie shadows across his features. You shouldn't have escaped, he said, his voice low and threatening. That gateway belongs to me. I felt a chill run through me. Why? What do you want with it? He smirked, revealing a row of sharp teeth. You crossed into my domain. You've disrupted the balance. What balance? I demanded. What are you talking about? Before he could answer, the walls seemed to shake once more, and the air crackled with energy. The symbol on the floor began to glow brightly, pulsing as if reacting to the tension. No! He roared, eyes darting around. You can't use it. My companion grabbed my arm. We have to get out of here. Now! I nodded, adrenaline kicking in again. We dashed toward the door, but the man lunged. I could see rage building in his eyes. Just as I thought we had reached safety, the glowing symbol flared to life, engulfing the room in a brilliant light. And then everything went dark again. My body didn't feel solid. I felt weightless, lost in an endless void. When the darkness faded, I found myself in a different place, entirely cold air, damp stone walls, and the unmistakable smell of water. A sudden realization hit me, we weren't safe yet. Where are we? I whispered into the stillness. Hold on, my companion said, their voice drenched in uncertainty yet steadfast. What if he follows us here? I asked, panic creeping back in. That only means we need to keep moving, and fast. Then, before I could respond, I heard a familiar growl echoing in the distance. My blood ran cold. It's not over, I said slowly, my voice trembling. Someone or something was still hunting us, and we had no idea what awaited us in this new place. I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being drawn deeper into a dark labyrinth. My heart raced as we navigated through the damp tunnels, the flickering torchlight illuminating just enough to guide us but leaving the shadows to twist and writhe. "Do you hear that?" I whispered urgently, my breath hitching as the low growl reverberated through the walls. The noise reached a haunting crescendo, echoing my fears. "Yes, but we can't stop," my companion said with an edge of panic, pulling me further into the winding passage. I could feel the dampness of the stone against my skin, each step echoing with doubt. What lay behind us, and who or what was hunting us? The air was thick with unease, and every moment felt like an eternity. My thoughts bounced between escape and the chilling reality that this stalker wasn't just targeting me, he had plans, and I was part of them. We turned a corner and stumbled into a large chamber, illuminated by soft, shimmering light from the ceiling. The glow revealed elaborate carvings on the walls, similar to those on the box, the sigils flickering in a language I couldn't read. In the center of the room stood an altar, upon which lay an assortment of obsidian stones, each one exuding an ominous energy. "This is where it's connected," my companion breathed, awe and fear mingling in their voice. "This must be the heart of his power. But how do we stop him?" I asked, glancing back toward the darkened corridor, half expecting the man to appear at any moment. "I don't know," they admitted, looking around desperately. "But if we can disrupt the ritual he's planning, we might be able to sever the connection." Before I could respond, the growling intensified, crawling closer. "We need to act fast," I exclaimed, feeling urgency pulse through me. We approached the altar, examining the stones. Each one seemed to pulse with energy, almost beckoning us. What if the words died on my lips as the shadows trembled, and a figure emerged from the passageway, the man, dark and sinister, a chaotic smile spreading across his face. "You shouldn't have come here," he snarled, standing just beyond the light's reach. "You have no idea what you've disrupted." The weight of his words crashed over me. "What do you want with all of this?" I found myself shouting, but my voice wavered under the intensity of his gaze. "You, of course," he replied, stepping forward, his eyes gleaming with a mix of malice and excitement. "You're the key. You're what will restore my power. You're insane." I shot back, desperation rising. "This isn't about power, it's about control." His eyes narrowed, and he surged toward us. My heart hammered in my chest, instinct pulling me to protect my companion. "Do something!" I yelled, frantically searching for a way to counter his advance. "Get the stones!" My companion shouted back, drawing upon a resolve I desperately needed. With shaking hands, I reached out and grabbed one of the obsidian stones. As I did, it flared to life, a wave of energy washing over me. I could feel its intensity, almost a heartbeat syncing with my own. "Now!" my companion urged, grabbing another stone. We held them between us, their energies intertwining as a barrier began to form. The man hesitated, confusion flickering across his features. "What are you?" At that moment, we channeled the energy of the stones, sending it outwards in a blinding light. Waves of power surged toward him, catching him off guard. The room trembled as he shrieked, the very ground shaking beneath us. But something strange happened. Instead of him fading away, the symbols on the wall began to glow brighter, challenging the flame we had ignited. "No!" I screamed. "It's feeding off him." The power we summoned recoiled, destabilizing. We had miscalculated. Panic surged as shadows coalesced, forming tendrils that snaked towards us. I felt the ground tremble, as if reality twisted around my very being. "Join me!" he shouted, his voice a thunderous echo. "Together, we can create a new order." "No!" I yelled, shaking my head defiantly, but my words felt lost amid the maelstrom. The glow faltered. In a desperate bid, I thought of home, the people I loved, the quiet moments in my garden, the peace I sought. We can't let this happen. A flare of warmth surged within me, matching the stone's light. Empower it with hope. I yelled. I focused on what I wanted: safety, freedom, connection. The stones hummed with energy, responding to my intention. The light surged again, exploding into a radiant column that ripped through the darkness. It encapsulated the man, pushing him back, but it radiated towards me as well. I closed my eyes, feeling everything fade into the brightness. Finally, I felt the pressure release, relinquishing me from its grip. When the light dimmed, I found myself lying on the floor of my living room, the morning sun streaming through the curtains. I was back home, panting as if I had just run a marathon. Jasper nudged against my leg, purring softly, blissfully unaware of the horrors I had experienced. I looked around, confusion dancing with relief. Had it all been a nightmare? But my gaze fell on the box on the coffee table, still intricately carved, seemingly untouched by the chaos. I exhaled sharply, heart racing again. I wasn't sure if the danger had passed. There was a heavy silence filling the room, and for a moment, I thought I caught a shadow moving outside the window. I quickly pulled the curtains closed, dread creeping back in. I might have escaped one realm, but something told me my connection to the other side was far from severed. Somewhere in the distance, I thought I heard a low, familiar growl. It sent a shiver down my spine, hinting at a truth I wasn't ready to face. I moved to the door and locked it, standing still in the silence. Even if I had stepped into the light, the darkness still lingered, and I could feel the shadows pressing against the walls of my mind. I took a deep breath. I still had questions, so many questions. But for now, I found myself drawn to the window again, staring out, uncertain of what truth still awaited me beyond the veil.